What if I told you an Englishman really did become a samurai, and that his fate was even more dramatic than Shogun portrays? The new hit series has reignited global fascination with the world of samurai, honor, and betrayal. But how much of it is actually true? From the rise of Tokugawa Ieyasu to the deadly power struggles that shaped Japan, today we're separating fact from fiction and uncovering the real history behind Shogun. Some details are astonishingly accurate, while others take creative liberties, and you'll want to stick around until the end, because we're going to reveal a shocking truth about the real-life John Blackthorne. A fate so unexpected that even history buffs might not know it. Welcome to Armchair Archaeology, where we dig deep into history's most fascinating stories. If you love uncovering the truth behind legendary figures and ancient civilizations, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're eager to explore even more mysteries of the past, check out our ebook, Secrets of the Ancient World, packed with lost civilizations, forgotten technologies, and untold stories. Link in the pinned comment. To understand the world of Shogun, we first need to step into one of the most chaotic periods in Japanese history, the Sengoku, or Warring States, period. For over 150 years, Japan was fractured, with powerful warlords, known as daimyo, fighting constant battles for dominance. No central ruler controlled the country, and shifting alliances meant that no one's power was secure for long. By the late 1500s, three legendary warlords, Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu, emerged to reshape Japan. Nobunaga struck first, breaking the cycle of chaos with brutal tactics and Western firearms, but his reign ended in blood, assassinated by his own general. With Nobunaga gone, Hideyoshi seized power, expanding Japan's influence. His ambitious invasion of Korea, however, ended in disaster. Then came another crisis. Hideyoshi died in 1598, leaving Japan once again teetering on the edge of war. Everything changed in 1600 at the Battle of Sekigahara. Ieyasu, the most patient strategist of them all, crushed his enemies and secured his path to becoming shogun, the military ruler of Japan. Yet his rule didn't just bring peace, it reshaped Japan's entire identity. Even though guns had helped win the battle, Ieyasu saw them as a threat to the samurai way of life. At one point, Japan had more firearms than any European nation, but under Tokugawa rule, their use was strictly limited. Swords, not muskets, would define the samurai for centuries to come. But this shift in power also set the stage for an unexpected arrival, one that would change Japan's history forever. The first English samurai. After Tokugawa Ieyasu secured power, Japan was still wary of outsiders. Foreigners were viewed with suspicion, and Christianity was increasingly seen as a threat. So when a battered Dutch ship, Liefde, drifted onto Japan's shores in 1600, its surviving crew was immediately imprisoned. Among them was William Adams, the real-life inspiration for John Blackthorne. Born in England in 1564, Adams was a skilled navigator who joined a Dutch trading expedition in 1598. The mission was ambitious, to break Portuguese and Spanish control over Asian trade. But the journey was disastrous. Storms, disease, and starvation wiped out most of the fleet. After nearly 2 years at sea, Liefde barely made it to Japan, with only a handful of survivors left. Most foreigners arriving in Japan at this time were Portuguese or Spanish Catholics, and the Jesuits, who held considerable influence, saw Adams as a dangerous Protestant rival. They urged Tokugawa Ieyasu to execute him. But instead of seeing Adams as a threat, Ieyasu saw something else, a potential asset. Adams wasn't just a sailor, He was an expert in shipbuilding, navigation, and European warfare. Rather than putting him to death, Ieyasu brought him into his inner circle. Adams helped the shogun understand European politics, designed Western-style ships for Japan, and became one of Ieyasu's most trusted advisors. Unlike Blackthorne, who struggles to find acceptance, the real Adams integrated so well that he was granted samurai status, a fief and a Japanese wife. His rise was extraordinary. Trusted by the shogun, honored as a samurai. Yet beneath this success, an invisible chain bound him to Japan. A chain he would only fully recognize with time. If stories of real-life adventurers, warriors, and lost worlds fascinate you, don't miss out, subscribe, and join us for more incredible deep dives into history. Lord Toranaga, the cunning strategist in Shogun, is based on Tokugawa Ieyasu, the man who unified Japan and established a dynasty that ruled for over 250 years. But while the show captures his brilliance, the real Ieyasu was even more patient, calculating, and ruthless. Born in 1543, Ieyasu's early life was shaped by war and betrayal. As a child, he was taken hostage twice by rival clans, forcing him to navigate shifting alliances from an early age. But instead of becoming bitter, he became a master strategist, learning when to fight and when to wait. By 1600, Ieyasu had positioned himself as the most powerful daimyo in Japan. His rivals, fearing his growing influence, saw him as a threat. This tension built up over years, culminating in the decisive Battle of Sekigahara. With superior tactics and well-timed betrayals from enemy commanders, Ieyasu emerged victorious. But unlike many warlords who seized power too quickly, he didn't rush to claim the title of shogun. Instead, he waited 3 years, ensuring his enemies were either dead or completely under his control before formally taking power in 1603. His patience extended beyond warfare. He carefully restructured Japan's feudal system, placing loyal allies in key positions while weakening potential threats. He also tightly controlled foreign trade, favoring the Dutch and English over the Catholic Portuguese and Spanish, whom he saw as politically dangerous. While Shogun presents Toranaga as a leader constantly on the defensive, the real Ieyasu was securing his family's future. He stepped down as shogun in 1605, passing the title to his son, but continued ruling from behind the scenes, ensuring the Tokugawa dynasty's grip on power would last for generations. His legacy wasn't just winning a war, it was ensuring no one else could challenge his rule. The samurai are at the heart of Shogun, portrayed as warriors bound by honor, discipline, and the strict code of Bushido. But while the series captures much of their world accurately, some elements are romanticized. By the early 1600s, samurai weren't just warriors anymore. They were also administrators, landowners, and bureaucrats. While Shogun shows them constantly preparing for battle, in reality, most spent more time managing their lord's affairs than fighting. After Sekigahara, large-scale wars became rare, and many samurai transitioned into government roles. One of the most enduring myths is the idea of Bushido as a rigid, unbreakable code. In truth, it was more of an ideal than a strict rulebook. Samurai were expected to be loyal, brave, and honorable. But in practice, many switched sides, betrayed allies, and prioritized survival over honor. Even Tokugawa Ieyasu, the supposed embodiment of samurai virtue, built his empire through deception and strategic betrayals. Shogun also highlights seppuku, or ritual suicide, as a central part of samurai life. While it was a real practice, it wasn't as common as often depicted. Samurai didn't always choose death over dishonor. Many negotiated their way out of punishment or found ways to avoid it. Seppuku was often more about politics than personal honor, used to eliminate rivals or maintain a family's reputation. What Shogun gets right, however, is the importance of ritual, etiquette, and discipline. Whether on the battlefield or in the daimyo's court, samurai followed strict protocols that governed every aspect of their lives. But beneath the surface, power and survival often mattered more than honor. While Shogun focuses on John Blackthorne as the first Englishman in Japan, he was just one of many foreigners shaping the country's future. By the early 1600s, Japan was a battleground, not just for samurai, but for European traders and missionaries competing for influence. The Portuguese were the first to arrive in 1543, introducing firearms, Western-style ships, and Catholicism. By the late 1500s, Jesuit missionaries had converted tens of thousands of Japanese, including several powerful daimyo. Christianity wasn't just a religion, it was a political tool, giving converts access to Portuguese trade and military support. But this also made it a threat to those who resisted foreign influence. Spain soon followed, establishing missions and trade routes, but their empire's reputation for conquest made Japanese leaders wary. The Spanish had recently colonized the Philippines, and rumors spread that Japan could be next. When the Protestant Dutch and English arrived in the early 1600s, they saw an opportunity to break Catholic dominance. And Tokugawa Ieyasu saw an opportunity to play them all against each other. Rather than trusting one group, Ieyasu manipulated foreign rivalries to Japan's advantage. He allowed Protestant traders to weaken Catholic influence while ensuring no European power gained too much control. This strategy would shape Japan's policies for decades, eventually leading to sakoku, or national isolation. Within a few decades, the Portuguese and Spanish were expelled, Christianity was outlawed, and only the Dutch were allowed limited trade under strict conditions. While Shogun captures the tension between foreigners and the shogun, it doesn't fully explore how these rivalries shaped Japan's future. Ieyasu didn't just tolerate outsiders, he used them as pawns in his own game of power. Shogun touches on Christianity's presence in Japan, but the real story is even more dramatic. By the early 1600s, Japan's Christian population was booming. Jesuit and Franciscan missionaries had converted entire samurai clans, making Christianity more than just a faith, it was a political force. But not everyone welcomed this new influence. To some, Christianity was an opportunity. To others, it was a threat. For many daimyo, converting to Christianity wasn't just about religion, it was a strategic move. Portuguese traders favored Christian warlords, providing them with valuable guns, cannons, and trade goods. Some lords even forced their subjects to convert, creating entire Christian domains. By the late 1500s, churches, schools, and European-style hospitals were spreading across Japan. But Tokugawa Ieyasu saw Christianity as a threat. Unlike Buddhism or Shinto, Christianity demanded absolute loyalty to a foreign power, the Pope. Worse, Christian samurai were involved in political plots, fueling fears that European powers, like Spain and Portugal, aimed to colonize Japan. In 1614, Ieyasu officially banned Christianity, launching one of the most brutal religious crackdowns in history. Churches were destroyed, missionaries were executed, and Christians were forced to renounce their faith or face torture. Some were crucified, burned alive, or boiled in hot springs as public warnings. But Christianity didn't disappear. It went underground. The Kokure Kirishitan, or hidden Christians, secretly practiced for over 250 years, disguising Christian symbols as Buddhist or Shinto imagery to avoid detection. When Japan reopened in the 19th century, officials were shocked to discover entire communities that had preserved their faith in secrecy for generations. The crackdown may have silenced Christianity on the surface, but it never truly vanished. Hidden faith, secret alliances, and lost civilizations, history is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Our ebook, Secrets of the Ancient World, takes you deeper into these forgotten stories. Find the link in the pinned comment. Lady Mariko, one of Shogun's most compelling characters, is portrayed as a highly educated and politically influential woman. While noble women in 17th century Japan did hold important roles, the reality was far more restrictive than what we see in the series. Women in the samurai class were expected to serve their families through marriage, securing alliances between powerful clans. Love had little to do with it. Marriage was a political tool, often arranged when the bride and groom were still children. Once married, women managed households, raised heirs, and upheld the family's honor. Their education was typically limited to poetry, calligraphy, and etiquette, but high-ranking women could sometimes wield influence behind the scenes as advisors or mediators in political disputes. Some even became trusted messengers, carrying secret negotiations between rival warlords. However, there were exceptions. Some samurai women were trained in combat, skilled in using the naginata, a pole weapon designed to keep enemies at bay. In times of war, they defended castles, commanded troops, and even took part in battle. One famous example is Tomoe Gozen, a legendary female warrior from the 12th century. Though by Mariko's time, women warriors had become rare, the wives of daimyo were still expected to defend their homes if attacked. Some even carried kaiken daggers, which could be used for self-defense, or, in extreme cases, ritual suicide to avoid capture. While Mariko's intelligence and role as a cultural bridge are plausible, her level of personal independence is idealized. A woman openly defying powerful men would have faced severe consequences, including exile or forced suicide. Still, Shogun gets one thing right. In a world where status and reputation were everything, noble women were often just as politically valuable as the men who ruled them. The role of women in history is often more complex than we imagine. If you're curious about how forgotten figures and technologies shaped our past, our ebook, Secrets of the Ancient World, offers stories that history books often leave out. One of Shogun's most gripping elements is its web of betrayals, alliances, and shifting loyalties. The series presents Lord Toranaga as a leader on the brink of war, carefully outmaneuvering his enemies. This is largely accurate, except the real Tokugawa Ieyasu was even more ruthless and patient. After Toyotomi Hideyoshi's death in 1598, Japan's future was uncertain. Hideyoshi's young son was too weak to command loyalty, so a council of powerful daimyo, including Ieyasu, was formed to govern in his place. But Ieyasu quickly emerged as the dominant figure, forging secret alliances and positioning himself as the inevitable ruler. His growing influence alarmed rival daimyo, particularly Ishida Mitsunari, a staunch Toyotomi loyalist. This set the stage for the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600, the decisive conflict that determined Japan's fate. While Shogun captures the high-stakes nature of this period, the real Sekigahara was even more dramatic. Ieyasu didn't just win through military strength. He orchestrated betrayals before the battle even began. He secretly convinced several key generals in Mitsunari's army to switch sides at the last moment. When the fighting started, some of Mitsunari's supposed allies refused to engage, while others turned on their own troops mid-battle. The result? A total collapse of Mitsunari's forces and a swift Tokugawa victory. But Ieyasu's genius wasn't just in winning the battle, it was in securing his power afterward. Instead of immediately taking the title of shogun, he spent 3 years eliminating opposition and rewarding loyal allies, ensuring that when he finally claimed power in 1603, no one could challenge him. Few things shape a society more than its traditions, and in 17th century Japan, rituals governed nearly every aspect of life. From the precise etiquette of the samurai court to the deeply symbolic tea ceremonies, Shogun offers a glimpse into a world ruled by strict customs. But how accurate is it? Samurai society was rigidly hierarchical, with every interaction dictated by status. Bowing, for example, wasn't just a polite gesture, it was a way to acknowledge rank. The deeper the bow, the greater the humility shown. Even something as simple as where a person sat in a room was determined by social status, with the highest-ranking individual seated in the safest, most prestigious spot. Breaking these unspoken rules could be seen as an insult or even a challenge to authority. One of the most striking elements in Shogun is its depiction of ritual suicide, or seppuku. While real, it was not an everyday occurrence. Samurai sometimes performed seppuku to atone for failure or avoid capture, but it was often a calculated political act rather than an automatic response to dishonor. Many samurai negotiated their way out of punishment, and only in extreme cases was suicide the expected outcome. Beyond the battlefield, rituals like the tea ceremony played a crucial role in diplomacy. More than just a way to enjoy tea, it was a display of discipline, refinement, and power. Every movement was deliberate, designed to reflect the host's status and control over the moment. Through these rituals, Japan maintained not just social order, but an unspoken hierarchy that governed even the smallest details of daily life. Want to uncover more about the rituals that shaped ancient civilizations? Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned. Few historical dramas have left as lasting an impact as Shogun. Decades after its original publication, James Clavell's novel and its adaptations continue to captivate audiences. But what makes this story so enduring? Beyond the action and intrigue, Shogun taps into something deeper: the fascination with samurai culture, political strategy, and the clash of civilizations. When Shogun was first published in 1975, most Western audiences had little exposure to Japan's feudal history beyond the romanticized image of the samurai. Clavell's novel changed that, offering a detailed, if dramatized, glimpse into 17th century Japan. The original 1980 miniseries then brought this world to life on screen. And now, decades later, the newest adaptation continues that legacy with even greater historical accuracy and visual realism. But what truly makes Shogun compelling is its universal theme: the story of an outsider navigating an unfamiliar world. William Adams' real-life journey, from stranded English pilot to samurai advisor, embodies this theme perfectly. His story mirrors historical figures like Marco Polo or Gertrude Bell, who crossed cultural boundaries and reshaped history. Unlike many historical dramas that focus solely on war and conquest, Shogun explores diplomacy, loyalty, and the deep philosophical divides between East and West. And perhaps the most fascinating part of this story? It's not just fiction. The real William Adams didn't just survive, he thrived. He earned the respect of one of the most powerful leaders in Japanese history. But as we'll reveal in the conclusion, his success in Japan came at a cost that even Shogun doesn't fully explore. While Shogun brings history to life with gripping drama and breathtaking detail, the real events behind the story are just as fascinating, sometimes even more so. From Tokugawa Ieyasu's brilliant rise to power to the struggles of foreigners in Japan, the early 1600s were a time of upheaval, transformation, and cultural collision. And as promised, here's the shocking truth about the real John Blackthorne, William Adams. In the end, The privileges Adams gained became the very chains that bound him. Despite his wealth and status, he was never allowed to return to England. Tokugawa Ieyasu valued him too much, granting him land, a samurai title, and even a Japanese wife. But one thing was forever beyond his reach: freedom. Unlike the fictional Blackthorne, who dreams of home, Adams's reality was far more final. His home was now Japan, forever. He died in 1620, a man of two worlds, forever a samurai, yet forever an exile. History isn't just about the past, it's about how we remember and reinterpret it. The samurai, the shoguns, and the power struggles of the past continue to shape our view of leadership, loyalty, and culture today. And just like in Shogun, the line between honor and survival isn't always clear. So what lessons can we still learn from Japan's age of the samurai? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the real history behind Shogun, be sure to like this video and subscribe to Armchair Archaeology for more fascinating explorations into the past. What surprised you the most? And what other historical dramas would you like us to fact-check next? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the spirit of discovery alive.